Suddenly, Honório looked on the ground and saw a wallet. He bent down, picked it up, and tucked it away in a matter of seconds. Nobody saw him, except a man in the doorway of a shop, unknown to him, who said, smiling, "Pay attention! If you hadn't looked, you would have lost that for good." "It's true," agreed Honório, ashamed. To appreciate the opportunity this wallet represents, it's necessary to know that Honório had to pay the next day a debt of 400 or so milreis, and this was a bulging breast-pocket wallet. This debt doesn't seem large for a man in Honório's position, a lawyer, but all quantities are large or small according to the circumstances, and his could not have been worse. Excessive family expenses in the first place, obligations to his relatives, and then to please his wife, who lived bored to death of loneliness, a dance here, a dinner there, hats, fans, many more things, all for which there was no resolution but to kick the can further down the road. He went into debt. It began with accounts at shops and grocery stores, then came loans, 200 at one, 300 at another, 500 at another, and it all grew. The dances they gave, the dinners they had, they were an ongoing whirlwind, a vortex. "You're doing well now, aren't you?" he was ultimately asked by Gustavo, a lawyer and friend of the family. "I am now," Honório lied. The truth is, he was doing poorly. A small caseload, few prospects, and clients who hadn't paid. Unfortunately, he'd recently lost a case on which he had placed high hopes. Not only was his income down, he also seemed to have suffered a loss in his legal reputation. In any case, his name was being discredited in the papers. Donna Emilia knew nothing of this. He never said anything to his wife, in good times or in bad. He never told anyone. He pretended to be happy as if he were swimming in a sea of prosperity. When Gustavo, who went every night to his house, told one or two jokes, he replied with 3 or 4, and then went on to listen to excerpts of German music, which Donna Emilia played extremely well on the piano, and which Gustavo listened to with unspeakable pleasure, or they played cards, or simply spoke about politics. One day his wife discovered him giving kiss after kiss after kiss to their 4-year-old daughter, his eyes moist with tears. She was startled and asked him what the matter was. Nothing. Clearly it was his fear of the future and the horror of living in misery. But his hopes returned easily. The idea that better days were ahead gave him the solace to go on. He was 34 years old and at the start of his career. All beginnings are difficult, and he was determined to stick it out, working, hoping, spending, requesting credit, or promissory notes to pay short and when times were bad. The urgent debt of the moment was a damned 400 milreis bill for transportation. He'd never put off paying a bill so long, nor let one grow so large as it now was. The creditor didn't exactly prepare a knife for his bosom, but he had some bitter words for him that day, along with a threatening gesture, and Honório wanted to settle with him by day's end. It was 5 o'clock in the afternoon. He had thought of going to a loan shark, but turned back, requesting nothing. Threading his way through Assembly Street was when he saw the wallet on the ground, bent down, put it in his pocket, and went on his way. For the first few minutes, Honório thought of nothing. He just kept going, walking and walking until he reached Carioca Square. He stopped for a few moments. Then he crossed over to Carioca Street, but came back right away and took Uruguaiana Street. Without knowing how it happened, he found himself a short distance away at São Francisco de Paula. And once again, without knowing exactly how, he entered a cafe. He ordered something, leaned against a wall, and looked outside. He was afraid to open up the wallet. He noticed nothing but papers which were of no value to him. At the same time, and this was the principal driver of his thoughts, his conscience wanted to know if he could put the money he found to use. Not as if he didn't know, but rather with irony and reproach. He could settle his debt right away with cash in hand. Ah, there was the rub. His conscience ended up telling him he couldn't, that he should bring it into the police or post notices, but just as soon as he said this to himself, the financial hot water he was in began to sting. urging him to go settle up at the carriage house. He came to tell himself that if it had been his wallet lost, no one would be turning it in, and this realization lifted his spirits. On and on it went like this before his opening the wallet. At long last he removed it from his breast pocket, not without fear, half hidden, opened it, and began to tremble. There was money inside, lots of it. He didn't count it, but saw 200 milrace notes, some 50s, some 20s, estimating a total of about 700 milrace or more, at least 600. It covered the amount of the debt as well as a few less urgent expenses. Honório was tempted to close his eyes, run to the carriage house, pay up, and after closing out the debt, be done with it. He would reconcile this with himself. He shut the wallet and, afraid of losing it, put it away again, but after a little while he took it out, opened it up, and resolved to count it. Count for what? Was it his? He finally overcame his hesitation and counted it. It came to 730 milrace. Honório got a chill. No one saw. No one knew. Could be this was a turn of fate. His good luck. An angel. Honório felt what a pity he didn't believe in angels. But then, why shouldn't he believe in them? He turned his attention again to the money and stared at it. Fondled it. Then resolved himself to the contrary, not to use his findings, but to return them. Return them to whom? He tried to see if there was some identification in the wallet. If there is a name, an indication of any kind, I cannot spend this money, he thought. He scanned the pockets of the wallet. He found letters which he didn't open, folded up notes which he didn't read, and finally a business card. The name he read was Gustavo. But then the wallet must be... He examined it on the outside, and it seemed to him indeed his friend's. He looked back inside. He found 2 more cards. 2 more. 5 more. There was no doubt. It was his. This discovery made him sad. He couldn't keep the money, committing an illicit act, and in this case painful to his heart because it would harm a friend. The fortress he'd erected in his mind's eye collapsed entirely like a house of cards. He drank the last drop of coffee without noticing it was cold. He exited, and only then did he notice that it was almost dark. He walked home. His need still seemed to spur him on, but he resisted. "Patience," he said to himself. "I'll see what I can do tomorrow." Arriving home, he found Gustavo already there and a little worried, and his own Donna Emilia seemed so too. He entered smiling and asked his friend if he was missing something. "No." "No?" "Like what?" "Put your hand in your pocket." "You missing anything?" "Oh, my wallet's disappeared," said Gustavo without putting his hand in his pocket. "Do you know if someone found it?" "I found it," Honório said, handing it over. Gustavo snatched it from him hastily and looked at his friend with suspicion. This look was a thrust at Honório like a dagger. After so much struggle face to face with his indebtedness, it was a sad reward. He smiled bitterly, and as Gustavo asked him where he found it, he gave a precise explanation. "But you recognized it?" "No, I found your business cards." Honório tentatively turned and then went to change for dinner. At this point, Gustavo reached in again for his wallet, opened it, went into one of the pockets, took out one of the little notes that Honório neither opened nor read, and slipped it to Donna Emilia, who, nervous and trembling, tore it up into 30,000 pieces. It was a love note. The Wallet by Machado de Assis, first published in 1884. Translated from Portuguese for audio performance, copyright 2020 by Todd Conner, also playing music from Confidências, composed by Ernesto Nazaré and published in 1913. If you like this work and would like to support The Karaoke, please consider making a purchase at the Karaoke Podcast Store. A direct link is available on the website at www.thekaraoke.com. Or if you'd like to make a donation, click on the website's link for PayPal. Commercial or private sponsorship of future episodes can include the recording of a story live at your own location. See the website for details. In the meantime, as always, listen, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.